geeks. We're called ORD watchers, and you pay $20 and they do a background check on you. And you get a vest and an ID that lets you photograph the airports and not get run off the property. So if I've got my vest and ID with me, I can shoot and you can put down a tripod. But if not, they'll get you out. They won't even listen to you. So you can get, this is the greatest little, I was showing someone this morning. It's like $10 from B&H. It's a little bean bag that goes on the bottom of the camera. So my normal, in the past couple of weeks, I've just been walking around like this. And then you can you kind of bury it in there, and it's not perfect. But if you want to tip the camera up a little bit, you're in the train station. This series, there's 2 tracks wide. The train on the outside started pulling out. This is about, I want to say about a 12-second exposure. So the train started pulling out real slow. Then it stopped, and another train started coming in. And I was really hoping I could get them both going at the same time. And it didn't happen. And I actually started to make a composite of the two, and it just... And then that's the other train on the near track coming in and totally filling the frame. This is handheld. There are a couple shots. I'm standing there just like a complete dork. And actually a coworker was on the train and came up to me. And he just like, and I try not to make, I usually have my headphones on and glasses. I don't want to make contact because, you know, with anyone, I don't want to seem crazy. And I'm sitting there just kind of looking down, taking pictures, and then all of a sudden Joe comes up and he goes, "You really need a hobby." But the guy on the left, there's no, you know, the repeating kind of pattern. I want to say, I've got my iPad, we can probably get the metadata. I want to say this was 2 seconds, and that kind of movement goes with the image. It's not perfect, but it kind of goes with the, there's a film called Quantascazzi that I show my students. Has anyone seen it? It's a really, really weird movie. It's 90 minutes of this kind of stuff. It's all movement and time lapses. It starts from very, very sped up time to slow motion. It's a really amazing film. Philip Glass does the soundtrack for it. There's 2 films that came out after Quantascazzi. One's Poanascazzi, and I don't know what the third one is. You don't want to watch either one of the second films. The first one is absolutely amazing, though. And it kind of inspired a lot of the stuff. It's a movement through, I think the word is a made-up word that they, I think it's like a civilization in change or something like that. This is at Midway, just goofing around. I had to pick someone up, so me and my son went early. And that's just tracking them coming in. And this kind of inspired my thought. I think there's 3 here. Inspired this image here. I went home and I was looking at it, and I thought, you know what would be really cool, instead of going with the kind of blurry stuff, I did have my best on for this one because we were right against the wall at Midway. But what this is, these are about 15-second exposures of planes coming in for final approach. They're right at the end of the runway. We're right at the threshold. And so these are the landing lights coming over me. And I started playing with them, and I was trying to get a single, like, perfect one, but every single plane, the night we were there was really, really windy as well, and I couldn't, you know, it would come in, I'd be off a little bit, so we'd correct, and then they'd come in on the other side, and they were really, it was amazing how much they were moving around. But I started playing with them, and I really liked the triptych, and the really cool thing, and I sent this up to the print farm upstairs to be printed, and riding up in the elevator a couple hours later, I went up to get a test strip. And no, it had to be later because the whole print was done by then. And she had 2, this is printed on Canon 8100, a 44-inch printer that has a roll feed on it. And she had, and the only way, the factory approved way to clean the print heads is with Bounty paper towels because they're the most absorbent. And that's literally what it says in the book. And she's got a bag from the store across the street with 3 things of Bounty paper towels. I'm like, what are you doing? She's not. And she's like really, really quiet, and we go upstairs and see these 2 red dots? Yeah. She thought the printer was misfiring and dripping ink. And what that actually is that's the strobe underneath the plane. So as it's coming over, the strobe that fires underneath made exposure on there. So it was really, and I like the triptych. I told you earlier I work in interior design school, and I was playing with it on my desk in my office. And the department chair for interior design came in and goes, "Wow, you know who just I was just talking to who should see that?" And he's got a friend who does hotel interiors. And so I quickly did the triptych, and I just to do it like that, and I sent it to him. I haven't heard from him, but it'd be great to sell that as an interior. Just for hotels where they have like random art, just big blocks of color on walls. But this was on tripod, and speeds varied. You have a short window. I wanted to get that blue, that real vibrant blue, so I shot at tungsten mode. I used to shoot a lot of tungsten film right at dusk, and it really gives you a vibrant blue light. There's a shot on my website of the Sears Tower with a bunch of telephone lines, and that was high-speed tungsten that was pushed 2 stops to really make it grainy and gritty, and give you that real vibrant blue light. So that's something I've really been drawn to, that really graphic blue. This is as close to a perfect one as I had, and it's actually a little bit off center. That's why it's cropped square. I initially set out to do 1 in the middle and then 2 on the sides, and I just like a little more whimsical with what I ended up with. I'm just driving home from the airport. I'm just holding it up, shooting some cool graphics. It's handheld while I'm driving. 30-second exposure.
Why is it squiggly?
Archer Avenue, because it's handheld. Because that's cars in front of me. So the red, and I started tracking with other cars. I wanted a little blob to stay in place while we smeared everything else. And the neighborhood we were in, I thought it was probably a good idea not to do that. So I shot a couple shots and kept moving. Yes. A little bit of both.
So you're driving on the influence, right?
Yeah, Archer. This one did work. This is a car that I was able to stay kind of ride station with, so those are just taillights moving around. So that's about as close as I can get, keeping him in the same spot. Handheld, these are about a half a second. I think the next 3 or 4 are rush hour in Chicago. This is people walking across the center. That's the crosswalk, the painted crosswalk. I love the late afternoon light and the shadows. It's kind of whimsical. You kind of know what you're looking at and you don't. But again, these are straight out of the camera, no exposure change. Nothing has been done in post-production. When I expose, I'll use a histogram. I'll expose till I get about as bright as you can get for my highlights without losing anything, without going off the end of the histogram. So, that is a tool that really makes Pinhole easy. And the other thing, too, that's remarkable about shooting Pinhole is we're doing it with the DSLR, which he's going to shoot me now when he sees this, is we're not quite bright enough in here. You can view, if you go outside, you can live view off the LED, and if you're outside, you can see what you're doing on the LCD panel. And then as you shoot, the mirror's already up, so you can shoot really quickly and efficiently. There's a picture of me with blue windows behind me. So, I can pass this around. These are people running like crazy across the bridge. Union Station is right on the river, on the Chicago River. So I'm standing with my back to Union Station, and there's a couple different overpasses that get wonderful light in the afternoon with a dark building right behind them. So in the morning, this shot doesn't exist because the light's not really right on the people. Chicago is built almost perfectly that in the summer, the sun goes straight down the streets. It is remarkable because in the morning, you get sun coming up the streets, shining beautifully down the street, and in the evening it goes down. So that's exactly what's lighting these people. You can see that there's not even any, it's just bounce light from the building right here on the side of the bridge. So the sun's coming straight down the street. The building here is blocking, that's the little bridge, or the little building for the drawbridge. And then that's just a building back there. So we're exposing for the highlights and letting it go, and that's with a little sandbag underneath, plopped on the side of the overpass, or the little bridge. This is one of my favorites out of the train. We had just come from under a bridge, so right as the train came out, I would shoot a frame to try to get the dark kind of blurred across. This is something that is really, when you think about Pinhole, that I think is remarkable. When you can get this kind of color fidelity. I've not done anything to the saturation. It's just early morning light, handheld. I want to say 1/8 of a second, maybe a little bit less. but just beautiful, beautiful kind of rendition. And it does give you a quality that is much more. I don't feel it's as gimmicky. It's getting very close back to using 4x5 and getting a pinhole image that doesn't look that just looks enough different that it's not 24 to 70 on a 5D, which is what 90% of people are shooting. Hmm?
1600 ISO.
Yeah, I'll go way up as high as I can. This is 16. This was actually in shadow. This is the Hyatt building. The building that Harrington is in is owned by the Pritzkers. They used to run Hyatt out of the top level of the top. I don't know, it was like 5 floors, and they built Hyatt World Headquarters like literally a stone's throw diagonal. And this is Hyatt World Headquarters. They've got by their doors this big brushed stainless panels, and this is in the next one actually. So this is a guy reflected in the stainless steel. But the next one, I think yesterday was Bring Your Child to Work Day. No, it had to be the day before.
No, it was yesterday.
Was it yesterday? Okay, so these are. Okay, so that's a guy who had his kid with him. Bouncing, and you can when you look at him, you can really tell it's kind of sweet. It's just so I stood there a little bit, shot some pictures. Security guy looked at me. I kept walking.
When you were talking about the one that had a phenomenal color with it, that went down.
I'd go back, but I can't.
Yeah. Do you notice that when you go to enlarge image, especially if it's a correct production, that you get the same kind of glow around the edges?
Absolutely.
I was wondering whether that was a fact of only film or whether you got that digital.
You do get the glow, and we were actually talking about that, especially on the highlight. Let me see if I can unfold this and go backwards.
I didn't know whether it's
Step 1 done.
Let's pick that up.
Hey.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, absolutely. The interesting thing, though, is when you use cheaper lenses, especially wide-angle lenses, you'll notice on the edges, you'll often get a miscoloration. It's usually magenta or green, and it's the lens's inability to focus all the colors of the spectrum on the same plane. Ironically, nothing's been done. Even when you start losing stuff on here, all the colors are aligned on the same plane. So you get flare and you get blooming, but it looks more like a white diffusion when you shoot versus a black diffusion when you print. It's flaring the highlights into the shadow area instead of vice versa. But it's a real pleasing, and I kind of like, shooting at those times when you are now not shooting, morning and evening. It was funny when you said that because I'm like, it's the opposite because, everything that I'm doing with the small camera, I don't like the high noon light. I like long, dramatic light. I like color. I like saturation, and I'm, the way I'm doing it, the way I've figured out and I've been doing it, it works really nicely to get the effects in camera. There was another one earlier where I was coming out of Sport Mart with the sun in there, and that was too much. That was totally a burned out spot. That's too much for me. But here, the highlight I think is ideal. It really adds to the picture, and the haze in the image. A good portion of this is morning haze in Chicago. I like to think it's haze, it's probably pollution. It's beautifully backlit, but I broke my headphones doing this one. I was squatting down, and the thing had got under my knee, and I stood up, and blink, both wires came out. But I was shooting this guy. I was waiting for someone to walk through, and actually I got him on both sides, and I couldn't decide which one I liked better. And my wife wasn't around to tell me which one was better.